Let's face it, parenting is the most important job on earth. Every day presents a stack of different challenges, and more often than not, the answer is outside of the box. On this podcast, we will offer proven strategies, interview pioneers in education, give insights into how to be successful parents, and even share our imperfect experiences of being parents ourselves. We're all in on this journey, and we will span the globe to find out what is working and who has the answers. This is the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast. Here are your hosts, Darren McCarthy and Brian Powers.
Welcome to the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast. I'm Brian Powers.
I'm Darren McCarthy.
Darren, today we're speaking with Andrea Nachtigall, CEO of and founder, actually, of Cloud9 World.
A full program that talks to kids from a literacy basis about social emotional. That's exactly something we've been looking for because we've been talking about a lot of other subjects, and then we talked to Ush Donick not too long ago about EQ, and this one ties right into that, but on a broader, more literacy-based program. Fun stuff, right?
Yeah, just teaching children self-regulation at a young age, just how to deal with your emotions, how to identify your emotions. She talks about, how do you expect a 2 or 3-year-old? Sometimes they don't even realize that they're angry or what anger is. They just know they're feeling something, and helping them identify that, and then also how to deal with it. I really like how they set the foundation at a young age and work it all the way through to middle school.
Yeah, and I mean the website lays it out exactly what the skill sets are at each different level. It's almost like they're building that foundation, and then you reach another age plateau, and then you move on through to the next. And then to the next, and she wants to get to the point where we have, fully socially emotional, responsible adults with integrity and all kinds of character traits, and these are the adults that'll ultimately lead the world. So
giving them the skills to be successful at school and work, and like we said on this episode, it's tough. We're dealing with adults right now that are in the workforce that never learned this as children. I mean, I don't remember being taught, how to deal with my emotions. Just learned it luckily over time, but it's difficult. I mean, I know what we're dealing with, with my 8, 6, and 3-year-old, and it's just being able to show them, hey, this is something it's okay to feel, and this is how you can deal with it when you are feeling it.
The beauty of the Cloud9 World program is that it is literacy based, so you don't have to. It's not reaction. Andrea was saying that you're going to talk about anger, you're going to talk about sadness, you're going to talk about a whole spectrum of emotions, but you're not going to do it in the moment. Which I think a lot of times that's what we do as parents. It's like, my child's angry, let me talk about anger. Yeah. Well, while they're in anger stage, there's not the time to talk about. To define what anger looks like. It's already it's already on you.
Correct. And this kind of falls into the world of like we talk about all the time, the dieting and exercise model of you need to do it every day, and setting aside time to go over different emotions and how to deal with them, and not being reactive when they happen in the moment will help long term.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we're running across parents that are kind of addressing an issue that they see with their own children, and then whether they have an education background or not, they're deciding to, I'm going to do something, and her program is now in 11 different countries, and she has a full staff, and you see, as a parent, if you kind of think outside the box yourself and you have the motivation to do it, the chances are other parents are thinking the same thing. Andrea's proven that.
Yeah, she admits no real education background, and kind of similar to me. Like I said, we just got to figure this out. And she admits, she said, I had a 2-year-old that was coming home from daycare biting every day, and she's like, I just had to figure out how to help them and give them the skills that they needed to succeed. And that's
right.
And
I think that as a parent, because you're trying to kind of not necessarily solve. Well, yeah, you kind of are trying to solve a problem, with your own children, that you are willing to go beyond any boundaries, and you don't have to worry about following a certain construct or a certain kind of bureaucratic system, so to speak. She's just she just said, what, this is what I want. I want my children to be well-rounded people that talk about their emotions and that are self-regulated. And I'm going to go out there and try to find a way to make it happen. And then she met Dr. Pam Bruning, who was a former guest of ours.
Yep.
And she created the whole curriculum behind this. And together, they really done something incredible. And I can't wait to start the program myself.
Stay out of the way of a motivated parent.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to get the job done.
So without further ado, here we go with Andrea Nachtigall from Cloud9 World.
Hello, Andrea. Welcome to the show. Andrea from Cloud9 World. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. Well, I'm not an educator. I wish I was, and I hopefully will be in my next life. I actually, when my kids were little, about 20 years ago, I started seeing where they were heading, where their growth was going, and all the stuff that was happening around them that was affecting them, and how we weren't really taking care of a lot of their needs. And more than anything, I was looking at where society was going. And I worked in many different industries before, and I stopped doing what I was doing. And I said, I really want to shift over and do something that is going to ensure that my kids have a better world, basically, that they grow up in a healthier society. I talked to a couple of friends of mine, and I said, I want to work on a project in which we're going to start by going back to the basics and teaching kids basic human values. And that's how Cloud9 started.
Wow.
Fantastic. So is it a curriculum-based program, or is it home and school?
Yes. Initially it started by being a collection of books for parents, and each book was a particular value. We match it. We call them values or character strengths, and we wanted to make it very fun and tangible things for kids, because these are concepts that are very abstract and they're pretty hard for adults to understand. Imagine for a 4 or 5-year-old. So we started by doing this collection of 12 books initially, and we took what we thought were the most important character strengths that a person needed. And I had a lot of experience in the gift industry, so we put it out into gift stores around the country. A book on integrity, a book on compassion, through a fun story in which the child could experience that story, relate to the behavior of an animal, and understand it, so that we would give parents basically tools to begin conversations about these character strengths at home. And then we started seeing that 90% of our buyers were teachers and counselors and principals who were calling us and telling us, look, we really want to bring this education into our school. Do you have anything else? Because I had from educational background, we were like, So we brought in Dr. Bruning, Pamela Bruning, and I asked her, can you help me develop some sort of curriculum around these books? And that was about, 14 years ago, and from there we started actually developing a whole social and emotional program. We wanted to go beyond that. However, as much as the program goes into the schools, we have a huge component that stays at home, because we truly believe that this education, it needs to happen at school, but mostly it needs to happen at home. So if we can get to the home by using, let's say, children as a vehicle to take this character strengths and all these social emotional skills from the school back into the home, then that's where we're going to have a bigger impact. And that's where we want to go to as Cloud9. It's not about just a curriculum for the school. It's not about something that we want to send to parents. It's working together to bring a societal change, working together so we go back as society to the basic human values that we were supposed to have, and be able everybody. And that's our goal. That's what we're working at.
Great.
Excellent.
I mean, being able to teach, like you say on your website, self-regulation at a young age is lacking really in society today. I mean, it's like we kind of talked about before when we first got on the call. We were just dealing with a lot of adults that didn't really learn that when they were children. So being able to bring that back to our current children is huge. I know, my 3 young ones, emotions are running rampant in our house right now. And so being able to teach them self-regulation and how to deal with that, and that it's okay, is big.
Absolutely. So as we were working with this social emotional program for all these years, we started a few years ago noticing that we really had to begin with the little ones before we can teach them all the other SEL or social emotional skills. The first one that we have to learn is actually how to self-regulate, and all the research shows that if you can self-regulate, the path to success in every aspect of your life completely opens. Because our biggest problems is that we don't know how to self-regulate. We have emotions all day long, all of us, adults, kids, and like you were saying, when we were little, they would tell you, don't be afraid, and don't be angry, or you can't be angry. Or if you're a boy, if you're a boy, you could never be afraid, or
Sure.
we're never taught how to manage anxiety or anticipation. So that's how we created this new program called Let's Learn About Emotions with Kiwi. And it came from our TV show, in which we had this little bird that showed emotions during the show. It's called Human Nature, now on Prime. And and then Kiwi teaches kids that emotions are normal feelings. It is okay to be angry. It is okay to be, it's okay to be, sad. It's okay to have all these emotions. However, if we learn how to self-regulate them, then we're going to make life a lot easier for us and a lot easier for everybody else.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's the timing of this is excellent, because as a parent of young children, we're exposed to a lot of different kind of literature, and this is a rare piece, because we don't get to, a lot of times it's just for entertainment, or the kid will pick it off the shelf. There's a lot of really good educational type books where they can learn about history and such, but this whole concept of raising children to be more expressive and be more attached to their emotions is vital right now. And I noticed that you're kind of following a social constructionist approach.
Right.
Can you kind of tap into that for us, for the parents, and maybe step back for a second too, Andrea, and just kind of hit on what self-regulation means, because parents might not
Sure.
be familiar with that.
Sure. Self-regulation is the ability to manage your emotions. Basically, it's the strategies so that you can manage, any emotion that you're having. So what we do, what Kiwi does, is we don't only teach a child what sadness is. We want to give them the strategies to manage sadness. How do I manage sadness? Is it by talking to a parent, by drawing and drawing a picture of how I feel, by not staying away from my friends? How do I manage that sadness? And that is basically what self-regulation is being able to manage those emotions. And we take always kids into a state of calming and control. How do I go from being very angry to being less angry until I take myself into a state of calming and control? And that is what self-regulation does. So if I can use strategies like breathing, like counting 10 little animals. I had a teacher call me yesterday that told me that she had a kid out of control, and suddenly he thought about, I need to count to 10 and think of 10 silly animals like we teach him.
Oh, brilliant.
It is amazing how suddenly they can actually learn how to self-regulate. So what we do with Kiwi is we have a book on sadness. There's a story on one side of the page, and on the other side, it's Kiwi giving strategy by strategy on how to self-regulate. Part of the self-regulation is not only about emotions in me, it's about how do I recognize emotions in others and respond with empathy. And that's where all the social emotional skills come in. So self-regulation, it's me, but it's me living with a lot of other people, because it's not that we're isolated. So it's being really able to recognize emotions in myself, but also recognize emotions in others. How do I treat you when you're angry? Or how do I treat you when you're sad? So I have to be able to also identify that and help you through, co-regulate with you so that you can manage your emotion. And that's something that we in our program, we work very closely with parents, because parents need to learn how to co-regulate. Nobody gives us an instruction manual. I personally had a 2-year-old that used to bite every single kid around. I mean, he got thrown out of 2 preschools. I took him to a behavior, and it was the only problem he had. It was he could not self-regulate when he was angry. So the first thing he did was bite. So if I would have had a program like Kiwi, my life would have been completely different.
Well, it sounds like it. Do you want to tap a little bit into that social constructionist?
Sure. I apologize. Sure. So what we do this has to be a sustained process, which means that we build from one to the next. So the way we do it is we start by Kiwi. So the first part is we're constructing the child. So we start by self-regulation. And once you know how to self-regulate, you're kind of ready to learn. Then we start working on the self. So for the next 3 years, we take 30 character strengths and construct your character, which means we're giving you the 30 characters from gratitude to individuality to perseverance that are going to build the self. Once we have that, and so we're in a 4-year process, we take a spiral curriculum and we work on 21st century skills. Now we're going to help you, give you all the skills to succeed. However, using everything that you learned before. So if we're going to teach you leadership, we want to make sure that a leader understands honesty, tolerance, respect, integrity, and so forth. So that's how we're building up on the next, kind of block, which is 21st century skills. Once we've taken the kids to 21st century skills, now we're going to take them to what we call building great citizens. Take everything that you learned and bring it back to your communities. And that's how we're teaching. That's a new program that we have that's going to finish that, constructing the person upwards, or the child. So that's where we bring equity, we bring in social justice, we bring in inclusion, diversity, because it is very hard to teach that without the rest before. So it's really building up the child through this sustained process of learning.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's how you ensure that they have, how you said, we always talk about becoming independent lifelong learners.
Mm-hmm.
And that concept that you're talking about, going from one developmental step and carrying those skills as you need them for the next step, is actually why we're called Sound Foundations.
Oh, fantastic. That's
so
it.
It ties in perfectly. And I suggest people go to your website to see the little illustrations, because they really, to see it visually it kind of ties everything together, and it makes it all make sense.
And that's, I think, where we differ ourselves from all the other programs in which we've really built on the child, through a process. And now, as of next month, we're going to have a parent portal in which parents can come in, and because we're having so many parents asking us, look, I want to buy the books for my home, because they do get them from other schools. A lot of schools send them home. So we have created a whole portion for parents, because we are getting such demand now from parents saying, I want to be able to have these books at home. I want to be able to talk to my kid about inclusion, but how do I start a conversation about inclusion if I don't have tools? Things like equity, which is are huge right now in our society in general. How do I explain equity to my child when most adults can't even define it? So being
Very
able
true.
to have those tools. We did a survey on adults on what was equity, and 90% of our adults answered is how much I owe on my mortgage, or how much I owe on my house. And and it's true, because you have to be taught these things, and we never did. So soon we will have all these tools for parents, so that they can have anywhere from Kiwi all the way up to building great citizens and little kids, that they can say, this is what my child needs, and I can build a box for my child of the themes that I think will help them the most. So we have parents that tell us, my child doesn't have perseverance. Well, here's, work on perseverance, determination, confidence, that's going to give your kids. And basically at the end, everything goes back to character strengths. Every behavior that we have, everything that we do is actually based on one of these character strengths.
Can you give us, the listeners obviously are, our parents, and can you give us, just a little example or a taste of some of the help or the training that they would get through those books? Like, if I'm dealing with, like you said, a 2 or a 3-year-old that's coming home with biting episodes, or or a 6-year-old that's just having a hard time with their emotions, what are some things that they can do?
Well, we have a lot of tips for parents when we help them co-regulate. Anywhere from, first of all, the parent has to be the first one that's calmed down. And that's one of the things that's difficult for us parents, especially when you have 3 kids like you have.
Yeah.
You have one having a tantrum, the other one. So we actually start by giving parents, the first thing you need to do is calm down. The second thing, this is different, maybe if it's anger, sit down with your child, help him breathe. Maybe it could be sit down with your child and put him in this, we create this calm corner, create a place in your home that's a place where they can self-regulate. Most parents have like a thinking corner, or I used to have put him, stand up here looking the other way because you're kind of grounded because you are not behaving. Instead of
Sure.
we try to find a calming space where they can come in, and we have a lot of different tips. It might be, anywhere from take a calendar and show them when they're having anticipation. This is a calendar, show them the dates, how many dates you have to wait, how do you become a little bit more patient. So there's count, maybe you should count 30 clips, and that's a way to know how long the month is, and they can understand, they're anticipating something, how long it's going to take. So there are, depending on what emotion, we have a lot of different tips, and very easy for parents to, actually I think they can almost download it from our website. I have to check how we can help them co-regulate with their children.
Okay.
Well, you bring up an excellent point, because you notice there was a big wave of a push for children on the spectrum, or kids with autism or Asperger's, where a lot of services were kind of being created out of nowhere. Like, for example, a sensory room.
Mm-hmm.
And what people lose is that your child doesn't have to have autism in order to have a sensory room.
Absolutely not.
And so I think that's an excellent point you break up. And it's the same thing with the emotional. You don't have to have anger management issues in order to be in touch with your emotions.
Absolutely not.
There's so many things you can do in between, and this is an excellent point you're making here.
And other things that you can talk to your child, for example, if you're sad, talk to your child about the triggers of sadness. Listen to their triggers, because everybody has different triggers. So and like I said, learn what makes him sad, so that eventually you can help him manage that sadness. We always tell them to practice the management techniques with their kids. Point out positive things when they're sad. I mean, there's so many things. Look for opportunities to help them maybe develop self-esteem when you see that they're being sad a lot of times. So there's so many things. How do we keep them busy when they're sad? That's the number one thing that you can do. How do we keep a child busy when they're sad? Because that's and looking ahead, into as they grow up as teenagers, those are things that if we can help them work with that when they're little, imagine how many things we're going to avoid.
Dan, I'm getting
it's encourage them to talk, encourage them to use whatever words. And the first thing we do with Kiwi is they can't even name what emotion they're feeling. So we have to begin by helping them name the emotion. Sometimes they don't even know they're angry, or they don't even know they're suffering from anxiety. They don't know what's happening. So we have to start by helping them name that emotion, recognizing the emotion, and then we start the self-regulation process.
Almost like you said, being able to identify. They're so, when they're 2 and 3, they're so little and trying to figure out the world in general. You want them to be able to look at you and say, like, I'm angry, or even the positives, I'm happy, and then okay, so how do we deal with that emotion at the time? Sometimes.
Well, we were just having this conversation with Ush Donik about EQ, and we were talking about the parents' role in this. In that, if you're, and I was kind of bringing myself up that I don't always express my own emotions the right way.
Same here.
And so what you've developed here is a methodology where we can share the same language. Remember the other day when Dad came home and he was really quiet? Well, he wasn't tired. He was kind of sad because the day was kind of tough. Exactly. And then you could, and I think that's what you're trying. That's what the literacy is all about, correct?
That's what it's all about. And what you just said, it's right on the point, because we have to let them know that emotions are okay. I tell my children all the time, I'm sad today. Because parents, they never want to show their kids they're sad. They never want to show their kids they're worried. Why not? These are normal emotions that we feel. Emotions are normal. We don't have to hide them. We don't have to put them away. So I tell my kids, today I'm sad. Why are you sad? I'm sad because this and that. So now what am I going to do to, be less sad? Because it's not that my sadness is going to go away suddenly. These are the strategies that I'm going to do, use to be less sad. But it has an incredible impact on adults. Again, even just breathing techniques that we teach kids, if we as adults use them, it's amazing. The other thing that we do with Kiwi that I find very important is that in our strategies, we teach kids how to recognize their physical bodies and what happens with their physical bodies when they have these emotions. Because that's something that we're not taught, and that's something that has a huge impact when you're an adult on your health, on a million things. So how do you recognize, what happens to your body when you're scared? And so in our books we say, well, my tummy does, flip-flops in my tummy. Well, some people get a heart attack, some people have their blood pressure raised. So if, as we can teach them when they're little to manage the physiological part of the emotion by breathing, by doing different techniques, as adults they're going to have a lot less problems when they have these emotions, because we're going to have these emotions all of our life, every single day. So that is what I feel is a very strong component of this program as well. It's not, that physiological part of emotions.
So how long has the program been around?
Kiwi, it's been around for about a year and a half. We just launched it, and it's been incredibly successful. It's been, and I think the success has been because the need is so bad. One, we see in schools that kids are coming in, pre-K4 with trauma that teachers have never seen. So in that sense, in the education industry, it's been incredible. But the response from parents has been, from what we've seen until now, every time a parent sees this, they need to have this in the house, because it's a tool. It's a tool to just help us raise our kids in a healthier way, I would say.
I know you have a new client in me.
I'll gladly send you all the Kiwi stuff, all the Kiwi package. We have a beautiful kit for parents, and this kit we use plush toys as part of the program, because a lot of kids, they can't talk. So the idea is that they recognize it. We use a theory called Plushkin's psychoevolutionary theory in emotions that uses colors to recognize each emotion plus the degrees of the emotion. So we use plush toys, we use books, we use curriculum, we use so that kids can really identify. It makes it fun, it's understandable. It's made for 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. It's in their language, it's in their world. And the good news is that we're going to do a spin-off for a TV show with a whole one on Kiwi.
Yeah, and you had mentioned, so your TV show Human Nature, you're on Prime now.
Yes, it's on Prime now, and it's on in English and in Spanish. It's every Saturday on Univision at 10 a.m.
And I see on your website, you guys have a pretty large international reach as well.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, we do.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, give you a lot of credit, because, the one thing that stood out to me was that providing students the skills they need to succeed at school and then in the work environment. And I think we have the chance now. Just what we're learning about with our current adults is that we have to kind of, like you said, go back to the foundation that is in our children and start to work with them so that they have the ability, to self-regulate themselves as adults, teens, and then adults. It's a huge necessity.
It really is. And it's a huge necessity also to teach them all of their skills. When you're talking about the workforce, if the number one issue that the workforce has now is that we have great kids coming out with all kinds of work skills, with zero social skills, zero. There's all kinds of reports saying there's 2 million jobs that cannot be filled because they don't have social skills. They don't know how to self-regulate. They don't know what empathy, cooperation, teamwork, all these things that we have to have in the workforce. So we need to really go back. They don't have initiative. They don't have innovation because they're used to instant gratification. So again, because they have all this social media. They have all their world is so different. We have to compensate with the reality of humanity, I would say.
Very true.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask you a question about like training for this program and support for parents? So how is that kind of infrastructure set up?
Well, we have a training course. It's either we have one for parents and one for teachers, in which you just go online and it really tells you, it's very short, tells you what self-regulation is, how to actually insist on the co-regulation with your child, how to strategies at home, what can I do at home to actually take the advantage of these books. How can I create a calm space in my house? What are the strategies? This parent kit that we have, we put what we call sequence cards. So it's really with this colorful cards, teach your child step by step. How do I go step by step on self-regulation, on how to self-regulate? How do I access my parent portal and watch videos and do fun cartoons and fun games with my child on that particular emotion? So once a parent buys our kit, they can actually have access to all of this online.
Excellent.
Yeah, we'll definitely include a lot of that, all of that in the show notes for folks, that are listening. Go ahead, Darren. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I think the whole concept is, I don't know that it's people are kind of aware of how important this piece is in their everyday living. And it's, Brian and I have been talking lately about the importance of parents just kind of coming home and being more in the moment. But sometimes you need something, or some kind of trigger or some kind of scheduled event in order to get you there. And It sounds to me like, okay, we're going to read for 20 minutes a day. And now you have a whole curriculum that will basically bring us back home, give us the language that we need, and we can schedule it to say, you know what, today we're going to read about this. And then we get, it's really kind of, to me, it's really a very foundational piece that will actually concretize the family dynamic.
And that's perfect what you're saying, because this is another thing that I put a lot of emphasis on. It's not that we're going to read to the child about anger when he's angry. That's not the point. We're going to read about anger as a normal book. And we're going to read about anger. We're going to talk about anger. We're going to do games about anger, so that when we have an episode of anger, we know what to do. And that's where I think it's very important to tell parents, don't, oh, he's sad, let me read the sadness book. It's not only about that. We've talked about, sadness for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. We go back to the book, we're going to play a game. And now they understand that this is a normal feeling. It is so normal to be sad. It is so normal to be angry. But how do I manage it? But if we only use it when we have an episode, then I don't think we're doing the education that we want to do. But if we use it as a normal book, as a normal activity, our kids are going to understand these are such normal feelings, and they're going to remember now how to self-regulate when that comes up.
Brilliant. And do you have like an online presence where there's a Facebook group or where parents get together and communicate?
We don't have it yet because we're just building it up. The whole parent component is being built up. But on Instagram, it's called Kiwi Emotions. And now you can go on Kiwi Emotions on Instagram and Facebook. You'll find everything, and that's how we're building it up. We're actually creating a whole new website with apps and everything else for parents. So I think that in the next 3 months, there's going to be a lot of surprises for parents.
Great.
Good timing. Yeah, I know. I don't know about you, Brian, but I'm ready to go buy my program.
No, this is a great resource you're providing. We really appreciate you being on and sharing it, and we'll definitely share this with our listeners and in the show notes and help you promote it as much as possible.
Oh, wonderful. And I'd love you guys to try it at home and experience yourselves and see how in no time 2 and 3 year olds our kids are, they're like sponges, are really responding. And then they love their little kiwis, and they want to sleep with their kiwis, and they always find that calm and control one who's always going to give them that kind of like peace of mind, which is fantastic.
Fantastic. Okay, great stuff. We learned a lot. Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. I hope I was answer all your questions as best as I could.
No, absolutely. And Andrea, so just tell us your website one more time, and like I said, we'll include it all in the show notes as well.
Sure, it's kiwiemotions.com, and you can find it at Instagram and Facebook.
Great.
Brilliant.
Andrea, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast with your hosts, Darren and Brian. Find them on social media at Sound Foundations for Parenting. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And we'll catch you next time on the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast.